Hello, welcome to Educational Psychology course number 3264, which is Basic and Applied Statistics. My name's Mike Huberty, and I've taught this course online for a couple of semesters. I guess this will be my third semester teaching it. I've also taught this course actually in person a number of years ago when we first created this curriculum. And just a little bit about myself. I've taught for 23 years at high school level. For the last 18 years, I believe it is, at Mounds View High School, which is just north of the Twin Cities campus, about 8 miles or so. And I've primarily taught math and statistics and science. I also have spent a year teaching at St. Olaf College, math and statistics, not surprisingly. And I'm at the university right now working on a PhD in educational psychology. I'm focusing on statistics education. In particular, I'm interested in K-12 teacher education for the teachers who end up teaching statistics courses or statistics concepts within their classrooms. Usually it ends up being math teachers in high schools and even earlier than high school to teach those concepts. And my interest is helping those teachers learn really how to teach this kind of material at those levels. And they're generally not given that kind of training through teacher training. So that's kind of where my research interest lies. Some other stuff that I do is I'm involved with the Minnesota Science Olympiad. I've worked with that for about 22 years, both coaching teams, high school level, middle school level. I've been the state director for a number of years. I've given that up as I've gone to now graduate school myself. But I'm still heavily involved in the program. I also started the elementary level, so I have host tournaments for elementary school, grades 3 through 6, and it's really fun to see them do, exciting science. And favorite event to watch is pasta towers. So they build towers made out of pasta and glue and see how they can, how much weight it will hold. So I've been married for 24 years now, and my wife and I, we have 3 boys. Who are in grades 4, 7, and 9. So I'm quite busy, and but love teaching this course. I love teaching statistics and math, and really sharing things with anybody who wants to learn. So hopefully you'll find this a very enlightening course. And I know people who take this course come from extremely varying backgrounds. Some people usually have some sort of good, strong math background and like math, and others, let's say, are math phobic and kind of frightened of that sort of thing. And this course really doesn't do much in terms of mathematics. We're really not interested in teaching math. We're interested in looking at data and trying to figure out, well, what does this data tell us and how do we interpret this data? So that's our focus. We want to be able to have you leave this course being able to, read research, and when you see research and say, well, they're presenting some results that they have, and you'll be able to then hopefully understand what that means and make your own judgments about, well, what are they saying? When they're talking about p-values and confidence intervals, those are 2 big things we'll learn about in this course, and we want you to be confident in those kind of things. I want to give you a quick message to from our teaching assistant here.
Hi, I'm Brett Morrow, and I'll be your TA for 3264 this semester. I'm a second-year graduate student in the Educational Psychology Quantitative Methods in Education program. I have a bachelor's degree in mathematics, and I was actually the TA for the same class last semester, and Mike taught the same class last semester. So please feel free to email me at any time. I'll be happy to answer any questions you have, and I hope you enjoy the class.
Okay, so what is statistics and what is this course? What are we doing in this course? Well, typically, when I ask this question, what do you think of statistics? The kinds of responses I get are things like, it's real life math and it's related to probability, things about graphing, and maybe in high school you had some experience using graphing calculators, doing things like that, collecting data, surveys, facts, some things, like with formulas and jargon figures, using in the news, sports, statistics. That's always fun for a lot of people. Politics, very big, polling, things with politics all the time, especially right now. Demographic statistics, statistics used in research, and one time I had this quote: a tool to enable us to make a reasonable decision in our lives. These are great things. About people's background in statistics, kind of coming into this class, and I also, though, tend to get these kind of comments about students dreading it and don't want to be taking this class, and they're only taking statistics because they're required to get into a program or to graduate, things like that, or that comment about never good at math. So those are the other things that I get, which aren't as positive, which we have to deal with. And hopefully, though, our goal here is to change that kind of an attitude. If you are coming in with an attitude with some of those negative things, and hopefully we'll change your mind about that. There is minimal math in here. If you love math, that's awesome. I do too. But that's not what this class is about. Okay. So what is statistics? Quote I have here from Davidian and Lewis that I really like here. Statistics is the science of learning from data. Now that says a lot right there. It's the science of learning from data. Notice it's not the probability, it's not the mathematics, it's a science. And the science of learning from data we can apply to any field and every field that's studied out there. And it's of measuring and controlling and communicating uncertainty. A big thing that we are going to study is uncertainty. And unlike mathematics, you may have different methods of doing a problem, but usually you're trying to get to a single answer. And with statistics, you're not going to get a single answer. We always have uncertainty because the data we have, or however data is gathered, it has limits. Basically, it has limits because of the way it's gathered. It also has limits because we're trying to make conclusions from data that's incomplete. We're trying to make grand conclusions from things that we just don't have enough information on, and you almost never do. And really, that's what statistics is about: is trying to deal with that uncertainty in very methodological ways. Of trying to say, well, what does this tell us? And when we make decisions, we're still going to be uncertain to a certain degree, if that makes sense. The rest of this, let's see. And it thereby provides the navigation essential for controlling the course of scientific and societal advances. So I think this is a really good way of thinking about what are we doing in this class, right? Learning from data, this idea of dealing with uncertainty, and we're going to use it. We're going to use it to try to figure out things. So what do you need to succeed? Tinkerplot software. You have to have some sort of a device that can run this. This has to be a Macintosh or PC. It does not work on a Chromebook. It does not work on an iPad. It has to be something that runs a Windows or Mac operating system. That's the requirements of the course. So I know sometimes that's occasionally been an issue for people, but that's what we have to have. You'll use this for nearly everything you do, every activity, quiz. It says test on there, but actually we're not going to have really any tests in this course. Really the assessments are your well, I'll talk about those in a little bit. Anyway, get Tinkerplots as soon as you can. The instructions for getting that I sent out. They were in the syllabus, and I think it's just a $7 for a year use. So it shouldn't cost you very much, and hopefully you can get that without too much trouble. If you do have trouble getting that on there, please let me know as soon as you can. You need to do the reading and do the activities each week. Every week you're going to see that it's the same kind of approach, essentially week by week, in terms of what you're going to be asked to do. Not every week will you have reading activities, but not every week will you have videos and reading, but you will have activities every week that you want to work carefully through. Okay, and your group is important. I assigned you the groups already. Most people have sent out their introductions to their group. Unlike other courses that you may have had as independent study or online, distance learning things, this is not by yourself kind of a course. And if you were thinking that it was going to be and that's the way you wanted it, I'm sorry, that's not what you're going to get. This course was designed to be done with groups, And yes, it was primarily designed face to face. There's 3 sections of this course happening this semester that meet face to face, twice a week on campus. Um, we also offer this other option. I think face to face is actually better because it's quite frankly easier to communicate in a group. But we try to have these same sort of activities. You're doing the same activities, but we are still going to do this as a group kind of thing. Although you're going to do a lot of the activity pieces on your own, your group's there to help you to answer questions, and you're going to be posting questions and interacting with your group frequently with group discussions. Your quizzes are going to be done in groups, so you're going to need your group members, okay? And they need you, so keep that in mind as well, that they're counting on you. I'm sure you know everything, but your group members are going to need your help. So be there for them as well. Be engaged in the course. There are frequent due dates. And I know sometimes people think, well, how can you give us frequent due dates? 4 days a week we have something due, and that's true. Okay, so you're going to have, I'll explain this a little bit more later, but you have Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Friday due dates pretty much every week. And the smart thing to do is not just go up against those due dates. If you think about the Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, it's all about the single activity. And those are just sort of, hey, make sure you're sort of engaged with your group on these various things by each of these evenings. And by all means, feel free to do it all on Sunday night if you want, or on the weekend. I set the due dates during the week rather than the weekend. If you've got things on the weekend, you don't have to do this course on the weekend. On the other hand, by all means, if you want to just get a bunch of stuff done and most of your work done over the weekend and not during the week, you can do that as well. So although there's frequent due dates, you need to be able to plan your own way of doing it that works for you. Okay, so you do have that flexibility. If you do have issues with getting stuff done on due date, by all means talk to me ahead of time. I can be flexible ahead of time. Don't wait until after the fact. But also keep in mind, if these are things about your group, they are counting on you, and that is serious, and try to keep that in mind. So if you have some things, by all means, we can work things out ahead of time within reason. Okay. Ask lots of questions. We're going to be using Moodle frequently for this, and you'll be responding to everybody, as part of the requirement, but by all means, if people have questions, help them out, answer. Okay. Email me with any questions you have anytime, and I'll get back to you as quick as I can. Sometimes it'll be fairly quickly. Other times I may be quite busy for a number of hours and can't get back for a while. Okay. And then read our feedback from myself, from our TA, Brett, and, read through that kind of stuff so that you can improve and your understanding. So we're using Moodle a lot, as I said. So let me pull this up here. So the Moodle page here. Big thing, I've set this up so it's meant to be very simple to use. I really believe that web design courses should be easy for you to find, and I hopefully you get acquainted with it, and within 2 weeks everything will be kind of routine in terms of that. You'll know where everything is. I've got a Google Calendar here. You can certainly, if you use Google Calendar, you can just add this to your own Google Calendar, and so you'll have all those due dates, when we have our office hours, things like that. So feel free to use that in your own, and but keep an eye on the calendar all the time. And the layout's pretty simple here, right? It's just these 4 things across the top, and then the weekly activities, and some of these things have yet to get filled in since we're tweaking the course a little bit this semester. Your basic course information's right here. Our syllabus. Let me yank that up here, and just so you're aware of a couple of things, primarily with the grading. I'm not going to go through this whole thing. You can read, and but our office hours weekly are there, but you can always contact us if those don't work. Let me get down actually to the course requirements. So participation will be worth 20% of the grade, and as I said, for every week you'll have an activity that you'll need to post your initial answers to specified questions by Monday night at 11 p.m. on Moodle, and that's at Central Time on the Minnesota campus, or I'm sorry, yeah, the Minneapolis campus here. So I know some people take this course from farther distances, so keep an eye on the times here. Um, so each week you'll post your initial answers to those by 11 o'clock on Monday. And so your whole group should have posted by Monday night. By Tuesday night, respond to somebody. Somebody may have a question. Someone may have done something that you thought was brilliant or really helped you to understand it. Give a meaningful response. Okay, don't just say, yeah, great. Some meaningful response. And then by Wednesday, you're going to do a collaborative summary in Google Drive, a Google Doc. Again, if your group wants to get ahead and coordinate and just do all these things on the weekend ahead, you're certainly welcome to do this. These are just sort of the due dates for this. And so let me pull up this whole idea of the weekly collaborative summary, and I will send you this weekend a Google Drive connection here. You'll just have a group summary, and I don't know however it'll come up on your thing. So for example, Group A, summaries and quizzes. You'll all have a shared folder for everybody in your group, and I'll put a bunch of these in here. So right now I just have Activity 2, discussion summary. And when you pull that up, it's going to be kind of blank looking at first, other than, hey, type in the summary, and everybody needs to participate. Nobody can say, all right, somebody else is writing this up, but you put that as a group collaborative effort. Somebody can certainly be the main author, but everybody needs to at least make some comments on it, maybe do some edits, and sort of when you're done, just it's kind of like signing your document. Put your name at the bottom here. Okay, so I'll be sending out those folders this weekend, and I'll give a little bit more info in a bit. So that whole idea that participation, as long as you have done meaningful participation in all these things, you get credit for it. Okay. But if you're not there, you haven't done it on time, it's an all or nothing. The lab assignments, there'll probably be about 7 or so of these throughout the semester. And this will be 40% of your grade. These are meant to be done on your own. And so it's taking some things either similar to the activity or extending the ideas from the activities and that you'll write up. And you'll submit those directly into Moodle. Okay, I'll show you that in a little bit. And then group quizzes, so that'll be another group thing. Mostly on weeks that you'll either have a lab or a quiz due Friday. There might be 2 weeks that we might have both, but usually it's just one. Okay, so the quizzes themselves will be done as a group, just kind of like your group summaries. It'll be the same folder. And the labs then are on your own. Just a comment about how these labs are graded. We are using what's called a holistic grading for the labs. And so this idea of the holistic grading, you're just getting a 0, 1, 2, or 3, a 3 being, yeah, this is excellent, no errors. A 2 is, hey, this is pretty good. Maybe a couple of minor things. And we may do some halves as well, if it's sort of on the border, 2.5 kind of thing. 1 is if something is definitely missing. And 0 is you turn something in, but it's basically nothing related to the assignment. Okay, so most people tend to hover around the 2s. Maybe at the beginning there's more 1s as you're sort of feeling your way here. But to understand that these are what are called holistic grades, so it's not like if you get 2 out of 3, that's 66% grade. It doesn't work that way. Okay, so throughout the course, we're going to average all of these holistic scores, and then they'll translate into percentages for your final grade. Okay, so keep that in mind. That I know sometimes people forget about this holistic scoring, and they panic when they're getting 2s and they think they're getting 66%, and no, it's not as low as that. Okay, so be aware of that when Brett grades those, and Brett's really good about giving feedback on your labs and giving us some good advice on those. Okay, I do have the part of the course calendar, at least through spring break. We're still working on some changes. We're kind of reordering some topics in the course is really what it is. And so at least through spring break, you've got sort of an overview of what's going on. And I do have all of this also in that Google Calendar that I mentioned. I'd read through these tips for success and some group discussion guidelines. Course intro video, that's this video. I will link to that in just a moment. Well, as soon as I'm done making it, I guess. I've been putting in just a couple of little videos of some statisticians and what they do here. They're just like 2 minutes long, so might be something worth checking out. Let's see. Questions and help will be a very useful thing. We're going to have our questions and help forum, which I should point out, I've also got just linked right here. Class announcements and questions and help. They're right up front. So people use those frequently. Okay, that's where you ask your questions. I need some help. And then I've got some tips about using Moodle as well as using the Tinkerplot software. So some information about how to upload images, because I know that's usually a tricky thing to get started when you're first trying to get some images uploaded. Tinkerplot's instructions and tips here. There are some specific things that I have for some of the activities, especially early ones if you check on. I've got some more information about that. Like the activity that we're going to be doing, you'll be doing next week, some things about conducting coin flips, and it shows you just visually, they're just quick little animated graphics of how to do some of these things. So I've got that in there. Let's back up a bit here. I have some additional movies here that you might find useful. The Tinkerplots does a lot more than what we're going to use. So a lot of these movies on using Tinkerplots goes well beyond what we're going to do. But there's a couple in here, Tinkerplots Basics, maybe making common graphs. And this one down here, Probability Simulation, those might be worth viewing once you get your Tinkerplots up and running. Let's see. And I actually made a video last year actually on sort of how to do that activity too. So I've got comments that kind of reference last year, but it's actually still the same activity, so I think I'll just leave that there for you guys. Hopefully you've already found the participants and groups here. The group members lists, I've got to tweak that a little bit. As always happens the first couple days, there's drops, there's ads, so I've got to tweak the groups a little to balance them again. And then you people should be putting in your hellos and introductions in here. I'm not sure why it said I'm not. Oh, hold on. I'm logged in as a student. So hopefully you're seeing your colleagues' introductions in here. And some info on Brett and myself. And then after we're done, after finishing up activities or labs, I will post in here wrap-ups, and these will just be summaries of things that I wanted you to get out of these the activities. And then we'll have these week-by-week things. So every week you can kind of just, see what are we doing for the week. This week there's a little bit of the course information stuff. There are some reading and videos that you want to take care of. And I have this first lab which is due right away this week. And some people have already submitted it. Mostly it's just getting to think about this idea of randomness as you respond to a couple of things. And then when you've done that, and I've got this, and you can either download it as PDF or in Microsoft Word, and in Word you can just type it right in. When you're done with that, where it says upload homework here, you go to that upload. I see 11 people have already submitted out of the 42. Yours will have a box that will say, submit assignment here. Mine doesn't have that because I don't submit them. I grade them. So you'll just upload it within there. Should be pretty straightforward, but if you have trouble, just feel free to ask. Then week 2, next week, every week I have this little overview of just a quick, here's what we're doing, here are the activities, here's what you need to do, and usually I look ahead to the following week. And so next week we do have this is our next week will be sort of our first standard week. So you'll be doing this activity here. I encourage your group, you don't have to do this where it says choose rules for your discussion, but I would encourage you to do that. And I've got some description about with 5 or 6 of you in each group, sort of if you want to take on a particular role that might help with your group dynamics. Again, it's not a requirement, but it's a tool for your group to use if you find that useful. Okay, and you'll post your answers in the forum. You'll just see one of these for your group where it says post your responses here, and so it's not every question that's listed. It's in this case 5 specific questions in the activity. I've labeled questions A through E that you'll respond to these 5 specifically. So you'll just hit reply to what I have here and answer your questions. You could certainly type your responses if you don't want to type them right in Moodle. If you want to type them into Microsoft Word, you could copy and paste. If there's some graphics, there'll be a lot of graphics that you have to post. I don't know if you need it in this first one, and that can be tricky at first. So as I said, go look in that help folder that has some more information about how to upload images. You can do videos too, I suppose. But so you'll do that group activity. As I said, I already have my help video from previous year that you can certainly watch to give you help. And then again, here's your lab assignment that you'll upload. So it'll be really the same routine. What's my reading and videos? What's our activity and discussion? Our Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday things. And then do we have a lab assignment or a quiz that will be due Friday each week? So I'm guessing by the end of week 3 you'll already feel like it's kind of a routine that you go through, which I think helps with running this course, that you kind of always know what those expectations are. Okay. All right, that was a lot, and so hopefully this at least gets you a start on things, and I'll certainly make some additional videos as I feel it would be helpful for you through the course, especially sometimes using tinker plots or trying to do maybe some interpretation that it might be easier for me to make a video of rather than just typing things. So hopefully this has been helpful for you, and contact Brett or myself anytime you want some assistance.